In January, as you all know, we announced a 2-year transition plan that I would be over the next 2 years passing the baton to Michael in terms of the lead pastor role here at Life Center. And we set that up in 3 8-month segments. So the first 8 months was I do, you watch. And we just completed that 8-month segment, end of August. And the next 8 months are we do it together. It's shared leadership. And then the third 8 months is you do, and I chew you out. No, it's you do, and I coach. So I'll be watching and coaching. And we just thought that since we have concluded the first 8-month segment, that it would be nice to offer for those who were interested. And we realized that not everyone would necessarily be concerned about this, but we wanted to offer for those who were interested an update. How did the first 8 months go? How will the next 8 months look different than the first 8 months? And then just field some questions, and then we're going to close with just a little bit of fun visionary stuff that we've been thinking about. Sound good? All right. Sound good to you?
So good. Oh,
good. Okay. Well, let's start out with a report on the first phase, which was I do and you watch.
Yeah, so what's my grade?
A+.
Okay.
Well done. Well done. Yeah. Yeah. Good watching.
Good at watching.
He's good at watching, yes. So the first thing I want to say, and then I'm going to turn this over to Michael, let him talk about this first phase, is that the first phase really was the least change of any of them, because essentially I continued doing what I was doing, and you changed your game in a few ways, but many of those were kind of behind the scenes in this first level. So tell us what happened in the first phase, Michael, first 8 months.
Yeah, like you said, not a whole lot changed for either of us. I was already on the leadership team. So we have a leadership team of all of the team leaders on staff. We've got 8 teams? 7. We don't really know how many teams we have around here. We're very organized. But all of the team leaders come together each week and for global thinking of what do we do to help our church continue to fulfill the mission of Jesus. So I was already a part of that team, and I continued to be a part of that Life Center leadership team. And I was brought into the executive team meetings each week. So that is Joe and Tim and Amy. And so they will meet and discuss how are we doing, how are we leading the staff, what do we need to do to care for the staff in a better way. So I was brought into those, and then I also continue to do my job as the Next Steps team leader. So just recently, in fact, today was my first day as not the team leader. We hired someone to replace me, and in that hiring process, we chose Krista Lack. Where's Krista?
Krista,
raise your hand.
Stand up, Krista. Yep, there she is. We upgraded. Yeah. I'm just saying.
If you enjoyed Love Week, that was Krista's brainchild. And she's the one who, along with our team's support and our staff support, she's the one who made that thing happen. So she's got a ton of leadership qualities and skills that are going to propel the Next Steps team forward. And I told our team that I think she's going to take the team where I never could have. So I'm really excited for what she's going to do in that role and her vision and passion for helping people take next steps with Jesus. So she just started that. She's officially today the Next Steps team leader. Woo! And so yeah, that's kind of been the last 8 months. I've been doing my role as the Next Steps team leader. We started that hiring process several months back, and it took us a couple months to get applications and sift through them and find the right person, and Krista was the right person. So we're really excited about that. And yeah, now it's on to phase 2. Did I miss anything?
A couple things, but that's why I'm here.
Yes. This is why we just started the co-leading phase, and I was previously just watching.
One other meeting that you started coming to was the council meeting, and yep, many people may not know, but our finances here at Life Center are overseen by a group of 9 church members. Some of them are here tonight. They serve 3-year terms. Every year, 3 of those people will conclude their term. 3 new people will be brought on. So there's always some consistency, some steadiness, but also new people coming in and putting eyes on our financial reports and our planning and all of that. And they're terrific, terrific people. They do a great job. And the lead pastor meets with them. That would be, right now, would be me. But we brought Michael in since he's going to be fulfilling that role, and had him sit in on those meetings. And then our executive pastors, Tim and Amy. I think Tim and Amy are here. We're Tim and Amy. Stand up, Tim and Amy. There's Tim way back there. Woo! And there's Amy back in the booth. All right, Tim and Amy are our executive pastors. The COOs, the chief operations officers, are the people who make everything happen around here, supervise the staff, do all of that. They're amazing. So they sit in on that meeting. And then Angela Miller, where's Angela? Angela, stand up, Angela. Angela is our chief administrative officer and oversees all the finances and is an accountant by trade and does a terrific job. So she obviously she's the one who prepares all the financial reports and leads us through that financial part of the meeting. But that's the council meeting, probably more information than you wanted, huh? But that happens every month. And Michael started sitting in on that to get acquainted with how that works. And then the other thing was we met every week for 2 hours.
And I really loved that. I didn't leave that out on purpose. That was an awesome meeting.
That hurts, yeah. That's going to leave a mark right there in my soul, yeah. I love that meeting, he says.
No, I can tell you. Can I tell them about that meeting?
Go ahead.
Okay, so we've been meeting every week, and I get to ask him, I've been watching, right? So I now get to ask him, why did you do that? So I saw you do it this way. Why didn't you do it this way? Tell me your reasoning behind that. So I really got to grill him on what I saw and what I was confused about. So that was really, I loved it for that reason. But recently, over the past 4 months, he has transitioned into every other meeting we're doing coaching. He is now a certified coach. Woo! And so he is really good at coaching. So in coaching, what he does is he asks questions, and really good questions that makes you think deeply and come up with your own solutions. So he'll say, Michael, what do you want to talk about today? And I'll bring up some problem or something that's been on my mind, and he'll say, okay, let's tackle this together. And he starts asking me questions, and it's pretty incredible the things that you draw out of me and help me to come up with solutions. And obviously, when you come up with your own solution, you own it a lot more, right? And so that's the huge benefit of coaching. And he's going to continue to be coaching me even after this transition process is over. So he'll still have that influence in my life, which I love and appreciate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then one other thing too, you also have been. It's all right here on the list, Michael. I'm looking at the list, but
I'm trying to make eye contact.
I know you're doing the good work here, and I'm looking down at the list. But you also have started speaking more regularly. Yes. So that was the first 8 months. Did we forget anything?
Are you literally pointing?
That's all. We've covered it all.
Okay.
Yeah, we've covered the list. It's all covered. All right.
I thought you were baiting me.
No, I wasn't. So that was the first 8 months. And by the way, a lot of this stuff on the list is summarized in this handout that you were given. And the reason we wanted to do the handout, same thing as we did 8 months ago, was we're going to give this report, describe what happened the first, what's happening in the second 8 months. And we thought it would be handy for you to actually have a written record of that you could take with you. And if you said, what did they say about this? And you can look back and see it. So, okay, next 8 months.
Your turn.
Okay, I'm going to look at my list. Stop that. Take your hand off that list.
No, let's see if you can do it. Come on. Fair's fair. I didn't look at the list the first time.
Okay. Let's see. So,
you can look at the list.
No. You've challenged me now. This is like my wife challenging me to some kind of physical exercise. And
what does that mean?
Okay, I'm going to look at the list. That's fine. I'll just change the subject. All right, so the first thing. Oh, that's right. Baby number 3. Congratulations. Yeah. Yeah. All right, so the first thing that will continue is we will continue to meet together every week. We have a 2-hour slot set up for that. One little shift that will happen in that meeting is that we'll continue to do coaching, we'll continue to do some mentoring, but we're also going to do more planning together, since we'll be co-leading a lot of things. So for example, staff meetings that in the past I've led, we will lead together, so we'll plan those together. Same thing with an executive team or a leadership team or the council or whatever it might be. So we'll also be planning sermon stuff together and looking ahead and doing that. So every week for 2 hours we'll meet, but planning will become more regular than it has been in the past, since we'll be co-leading. I already mentioned that we'll be co-leading all these different meetings that in the past I've been responsible for leading. Michael will continue to speak more often. And then one fun thing, this will help us as in our planning and stuff, is he is now a nomad, and so he's going to move into what was my office is now going to become our office. Yeah.
I already did today.
You did?
Yeah.
You moved in?
Yeah, it took me 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Brought a lamp and a few books, and that was
that's
it.
where the lamp came from.
Yes.
I noticed this new lamp. I thought, how nice, someone gave me a lamp. It's you, thank you. So the next phase is really all about sharing that leadership. And as I said, probably the most critical piece of that will be the planning and then executing of different things together, where in the past maybe I did that more by myself. So, did you want to add anything to that?
No, you did great.
Thank you. All right, so what we're going to do now is just open it up for questions. Any questions that you might have about the last 8 months or the next 8 months, or anything beyond that, if you have a question. And I think we have let's see, 2 or 3 lovely assistants coming with microphones. And so if you would like to ask a question, we do want to encourage you to ask questions rather than make comments. Now I realize you may have a brief comment to make before, but what we're trying to avoid is people giving speeches. And instead, if you have a question, fire away. Let us know, and we'll be happy to answer. All right. Anybody have a question? Right down front here. Come on down. Sela's going to bring a mic down. Here's a mic.
Joe, you're not going to totally step away from preaching at all, right? I mean, you're in the 2 years, after the 2 years, you're going to show up once in a while, right?
Oh, yes.
I mean, you're not just going to be gone.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, I want to thank you for asking that. The comment I get most often from people virtually every day is, well, we hear you're retiring. So I say, I'm not retiring, but I'm moving out of the lead pastor role and I'm moving into an assisting role. And so I'm going to work for Michael. And I will be a member of his staff. What I'll be doing is yet to be determined, but we have some rough ideas. The first thing that I'll be doing is whatever he tells me. And I mean that sincerely, that Michael or the leadership team may say, hey, Joe, we need help over here right now. We want you to put your hand to this particular plow, make this thing work, and I'll be doing whatever they ask me to do. Now, beyond that, I have some things that I'm really interested in, and that those are things that I'll probably also be doing. I've been trying to think, what my new titles are going to be, and tell me if you like this one. I've been thinking about PAL, Pastor at Large.
Yeah.
You like it?
Fits.
Yeah. What fits?
I'll let you decide.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Did that answer your question? Yes. Yeah.
Don't just be gone.
Oh, I'm not going to vanish. I mean, I'll be here at all 3 services every weekend. I'll be around all week. I mean, I'll be on staff. I'll be working, and I'll preach whenever they want me to. Lead pastor for high mileage units. Yeah. Well, that is one of the things on my radar, as I mentioned last time. Is we've been calling it the North of 55 group, and and that's one of the things I'm interested in investing some energy in. If you give me the thumbs up for that. And on the other end of the spectrum, I want to invest some energy in our students at Northwest Leadership College. I've got some ideas for missions. I have some things on church planting that I'm really passionate about. So, yeah, I've thought about men's ministry. I love, maybe I'll form a men's motorcycle macho badass group or something. I don't know, but who knows? All right.
Michael, what's been the most challenging part of this last 8 months and the most rewarding part of this last 8 months?
Ooh, Lori, that is a great question. The most rewarding part of the last 8 months has been getting to work with our staff on a broader level. As I'm stepping into the executive team, more of the leadership team. People know that this is happening. I get to encourage people, see what they're doing, be their advocate, and I love doing that. I love to see what people are doing, encourage them, help them in any way I can. I'm a 2 on the Enneagram, which is I'm a helper. I love helping people. So that's been incredibly rewarding, and I'll get to step into more of that as I continue on in this transition process of being the person who gets to look at our staff members and say, you are doing such a good job in your role as we're trying to help people find and follow Jesus. So I've loved that. Probably the most challenging part was balancing the new commitments of executive team, the different global thinking that brought in, and then managing my team as well, the roles and the tasks that I had to do on my team. My team is incredible. My old team, the Next Steps team, is incredibly competent, amazing, and I was just trying to keep up with them over these last 8 months. As they're thinking new ideas and coming up with stuff, I felt a little bit pulled in 2 directions, if that makes sense, as the transition was starting and I was still in my role as a team leader. So that was probably the most challenging part. Did that answer your question, Lori? Excellent.
Yeah, good question. Someone else. All right, right down front here. Oh, nice. Nice, I like it, Eric.
How do you see the dynamics and the support of the congregation changing?
Good question. Well, I've felt incredibly supported. Over and over, people have told me they're so excited for me, they're behind me, they're with me. And as you can imagine, if you're in this transition, it feels so good to know that people are with you, they're excited for you. So I thank you for that. Don't stop saying that. You could continue that all the way for another 40 years. That would be awesome. Thank you. But that's been amazing to have that verbal support of people. It's just been so encouraging to me and helped me to be bold and continue on this process. What about you?
I think I have really appreciated our staff's response, both to Michael and to me, and they've been very, very supportive, encouraging, and even excited about where we're headed and the possibilities and the change. And then just, watching the church, we thought that the statement we made 8 months ago, that if there was going to be fallout, that's when we would experience it. That in that first 8 months, that's when people would be kind of responding to the shock and awe, right? The emotional impact of it. And actually, our attendance has stayed steady. Our giving has stayed steady. It's been quite remarkable. Mm-hmm. So, I've felt very encouraged by the response of the church. Someone else? Zach.
So you just recently stated, and Life Center has always been about it, helping local churches, church plant, and helping coach church planters as they're rising up. But you went to that training and Michael didn't. And so I'm wondering what the future of Life Center being involved with church planting looks like in regards to what you're doing, Joe. And then Michael, where you would hope Life Center would take church planting in regards to Life Center's position in
Great
Spokane.
question.
You're referring to the church planting training that happened at the summit, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Yep. I had a lunch scheduled during that time already, so I was unable to make it. But I do fully believe in church planting. And even tomorrow, we've got the next gen, or the next is what you're calling it, church planter group. So I'm meeting with him tomorrow with all the church planters that he's partnering with and the churches he's partnering with. So I'm fully behind that. That is a vision that I'm bought into, that I'm passionate about. I know that Life Center in one single church cannot reach every person for Jesus in Spokane, right? Or in the world. So we need to plant more churches. And so I'm fully behind that. And Joe's going to continue to play a really large role in that because he's the one who right now has the connections in the community. He's the one who has the standing and the gravitas of 41 years of ministry. So he's built these networks, and he'll continue to be a force in there. And I'll be utilizing him in a big way.
Yeah, and that will be one of the things that I will continue to pour my effort into. And just a real brief explanation for those of you who weren't aware of this, but a year and a half ago, 4 pastors in our city from different denominations, all of us church planters, went back to a training in Chicago, and we were trained how to gather other like-minded pastors into small groups, networks, to work together to plant more churches. And in fact, it was really cool because we went back to this thing in Chicago. Usually just one pastor goes, and we went with 4 of us, so we already had our first network, right? The 4 of us. And our vision was to come back, and each of the 4 of us would start a new one. Well, we've already done that in the first year. We have 20 churches involved in these networks already, and more churches wanting to join. And we're already participating in helping each other to plant more churches. So, for example, just a month ago or 2 months ago, we had Shane Austin here, and Shane's from Real Life North, up on the north side of town, and they're planting out in Cheney. And Real Life is one of those 20 churches that are in these networks. And because we're all doing this together, Shane went, to our church and to 3 or 4 other churches, all of whom took offerings and sent people and are helping. Don't you think that's cool? That, we're starting new churches and we're doing it together. And nobody's worried about which denomination they are. It's all about Jesus and his kingdom. It's really, really cool. And so anyway, that thing is up and running and has a ton of momentum and energy behind it right now. And I'm investing a lot of time in it right now, and we'll continue to do that. Then one other fun thing that I just have to tell you, because this was like this unexpected blessing. So Whitworth University heard what we were doing, and they came to us. We have friends up there, as you know, and they came to us and said, we get grants from the Lilly Foundation all the time, and they want to give us a grant, and wondered if we knew of anything going on around church planting. And that's you guys. And so, Whitworth said, we don't plant churches, but you guys do. So why don't you work with us, write the grant, and then, you take the money and spend it to plant more churches. And so we won $1 million grant. And it's really pretty cool. And the grant is used entirely for the training of the pastors and the church planters and the teams and all of that. So, but anyway, it gives us some real flexibility. For example, we have our quarterly meeting. We call it our movement meeting. So it's all of the networks, all of the little small networks and all the churches, and then whoever they want to invite. We do these quarterly get-togethers where people can come kick the tires, see if they want to join. And the next we're doing is a 2-day event, and you should see some of the people we're asking to come speak. I mean, they're people that we can't afford, but we have $1 million. So, but it's that kind of stuff, right? Where you can really do some cool training, bring in some of the best people in the world. to talk to them. So anyway, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, and we're moving forward on that. We'll continue to move forward on that. And Michael is included in all of that. And of course, will play an important role in that as well.
Great question, Zach.
And we have a new grandbaby starting through Summit this next week.
Thank you, yes. Yeah, you want to? Sela's going to give you the mic, Kari. Say that again so everyone can hear.
So Life Center has a new grandbaby church starting in Cheney this next week.
That's
so
right.
Summit this next weekend will be doing their dress rehearsal. Their staff is going out, and they're going to run through the entire church service. They're going to train up all their volunteers who have come on their team, and then they'll launch, and then by the end of September, boom, they're on their own.
They're on their way,
So it's
yeah.
really, really cool.
Yeah, very cool. Yes.
John.
Two-part question. How is your work-life balance going? And is Joe teaching you how to say no?
Well, I have to learn to say no first, but
Okay, if we're asking how's my work-life balance, we should ask my wife, right?
Sarah?
Sarah, what do you think?
Back there, Sarah, how's
Is that a thumbs up?
thumbs up?
Okay, nice.
Thumbs up, Paxton. How's his work-life balance? Thumbs up,
Thumbs up,
Paxton
all
says.
right.
All right. We got a thumbs up from the 4-year-old.
Yeah, I love being with my family. That's the highlight of my days, getting to play with my kids. And so it's pretty easy for me to love work. Even though I love being here, I love what I get to do. I get to be a part of helping equip people to help others find and follow Jesus. I love that. It's the most exhilarating job in the world. In my mind, that's what God made me for. So I love it, but I love going home to my kids and my wife, and it's a blast. So that's work-life balance. Saying no, I think.
And you're going to have a third baby
Yes.
coming. When's that baby due?
Baby is due February 24th. So that's very exciting.
That's
And
more,
we're not going to
that's more
find out.
work-life balance.
We're
right
not going
there.
to find out what it is until it pops out. So right now we have a boy and a girl, so it's a tiebreaker. We'll see what we get. But I think I'm pretty good at saying no already.
He says no to me all the time, John. Want to go golfing? No. You want
I
to go
have work.
backpacking? No.
I have work.
Want to go to a movie?
I have work. No.
What's that say about his work-life balance? Right there. I'm the one playing. Another question? All right, over here.
Michael, I saw your first sermon and how nervous you were. And I just want to say that you have really grown. I'm very proud of you. Joe, we will miss you as lead pastor, but Michael, I am really excited to see where you take our church, and we know you can do it.
Oh, thank you, Karen.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Thank you.
All right. Sela's got you right there.
Michael, I'd love to hear something you're dreaming about. What are you dreaming about for Life Center right now?
Great question. I said this at the very beginning. People said, "What's your vision for Life Center?" And my answer was, well, I want to continue doing what we've been doing, is reaching people for Jesus. I want to help people find and follow Jesus. And there's so many different ways we can do that, right? One of the ways is church planting, getting more churches out there so more people can come. There's so many different ways. But one of the things that I'm really excited about right now, that I'm stealing my thunder from later, but I'm just going to do it. One of the things I'm really excited about right now is the Next Steps team has been working on making a more robust DBS curriculum for our mission groups. So
What's DBS?
You'll figure out later. No, DBS is Discovery Bible Study. It is the most used Bible study method around the world. It's an obedience-based discipleship method that gets people into the Bible in groups and then helps them discover what God is saying through that particular passage and then apply it to their lives in obedience and then sharing what they're learning. So a disciple is a learner, right? And Jesus told us as disciples to make disciples by teaching them to obey. And one of the best ways you can teach others to obey, one of the best ways you can include others in your discipleship, is by teaching them what Jesus is teaching you right now. So just simply sharing, hey, this is what I got, this is what I'm doing. And it can be on a myriad of different things in your life, however God is asking you to apply that scripture. But it's a very practical way to be missional with your friends, with your coworkers, with your family. So I'm really excited about what we're doing there. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But that is something that fires me up right now because as I've looked back at my spiritual growth, it's always happened in the context of relationships with others. That when I'm around other people who are on fire for Jesus, who are challenging me, who are asking me difficult questions, that's when I'm really growing. And we say that Christianity is a team sport, right? That we're better together. You can't do this alone. There's no lone wolf Christians. And this really brings people together around the Bible to grow together and to practice that obedience that Jesus asked us to do. So I'm really excited about that, Devin. Does that answer your question? Nice.
Michael, would you tell the story of your men's DBS group?
Yeah, so Kenny and I started Kenny and I did a rooted group together, a men's rooted group, and it was a blast. We had so much fun. And out of the rooted group, we started a mission group. And Kenny and I probably transitioned from rooted to mission group as poorly as you could. We picked a horrible time. We didn't communicate well. And because of that, we ended up having 4 guys in our group. So from the rooted group of 12 guys, we went down to 4 because of our really poor leadership. It was awesome. And then, and over the next year and a half, we went from 4 guys to 40 guys. Because guys were saying, hey, this is really helpful for me. I know someone it's also going to be helpful for. And Kenny and I would see guys and say, they need community. They need someone to hold them accountable. They need this thing that is happening in here where God's teaching us, we're obeying, and we're sharing with others. So because of that, we went from 1 group to 2 groups. Kenny is on the verge of multiplying into another group, so there's going to be 3. So it's super cool what God's done through that, going from 4 guys to 40 guys. That's the tenfold that Jesus talked about, the tenfold harvest, right?
My question, and now in question form, is a challenging one, and I wasn't going to ask it and put you on the spot, except I'm sure you guys have already talked about this. So, first question's for Michael, second one's for Joe. Michael, hard question for you to answer. What are your blind spots? Joe, what are Michael's blind spots? And I'm asking in this forum so that we, knowing that you guys have thought about it already, we can know and be praying about it for you.
Very good.
It's a great question, Jay.
Could the ushers please come and take Jay out now?
No. You know, the thing about blind spots is that you can't see them, right? Yes. So I think I know what some of my issues are that I have to work on. Sometimes I can be insecure, and because of that, I can allow that insecurity to come into my leadership, into my care of other people, and I'll start making things about myself. That's what we do when we're insecure, right? We want to make it about ourselves, affirm ourselves. So I know that that's a tendency that I have to fight, and I have to be aware of. If I'm feeling insecure, I've got to come back to Jesus, my rock, and recognize that my worth is in him, not in my production or my performance, but in his performance on the cross. So that's what I always come back to when I'm feeling that. So I know that insecurity can play out sometimes. And I've got people who I've talked with. And, we did a coaching on that one time. We talked about my insecurity and how do I deal with it and what do I do in certain situations. We made a game plan, and that's been incredibly helpful. So that's a benefit of our Thursday meeting on coaching, and I've really loved having that help in my life. So that's one of my blind spots, maybe not blind anymore. I would think, I don't know, why don't you tell me, Dad? Hit me with something good. You guys can see me weep on stage.
Well, you definitely need to say yes more often when I invite you to do fun things. That is a huge blind spot.
Why don't you invite me to golf on Friday?
I already did.
And I said,
Yes. Because it's his birthday and I'm buying, so just saying. And we're going to go to Esmeralda and ride the earth boards. Anybody know? You know what those are? It's like a skateboard with an electric motor, and you put your clubs on the front, and then you just lean. It should be, we'll probably play terrible golf, but we'll have a blast riding the earth boards. It'll be awesome. But no, so the thing you mentioned about insecurity is something that, of course, I've observed. And one of the things I believe is, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And usually when you see the speck in your brother's eye, it came off the log in your own. So you tend to recognize those things. And that's something that I wrestled with mightily. Rick will remember from the early years. That was a real issue for me, was not being confident in my own gifts and abilities and the Lord's calling, feeling insecure, needing lots of affirmation. My love language is words of affirmation, although Lena says my love language is being right. Thank you, dear. So I recognize that in you. And when we talked about it in that coaching session, I was pleased that you recognized it in yourself. And I've seen it manifest, a couple different times in meetings when you get challenged, and I can see you stiffen a little bit, get a little fired up, because that was my response too. As Lena will tell you, get challenged, kind of get a little huffy, instead of just listening, taking it in, because you're secure, you don't have to defend yourself. Yeah. So, but I'm not sure that's a blind spot, because you're aware of that, you're working on it, and you're making good progress. What I will say, if you'll give me the liberty to take a little leap here, Jay, is I want to tell you a couple of the things that I see in Michael that are unusual strengths. And one of them is your leadership gift is far more developed than mine was at your age. You're a much better leader than I was. Far more organized. A few
Honey,
people
did you hear that my dad just described me as organized?
Yeah. Well, a few people that know me know what I'm talking about. That details have never been my strong suit. I'm the guy who, in our first church, planned a baptismal service and forgot to put the heater in the baptistry. It was the dead of winter, and the baptistry butted up to a concrete block exterior wall. And so the water was, it was probably about 40 degrees. People literally died in Christ when they were baptized. It was, I can tell story after story like that. But you're much better, you're more organized, you pay more attention to detail. You're far better. And this is interesting because you mentioned the insecurity thing, but you are far better at having the hard conversations with people than I was or even am to this day, I think. And you're more willing to just wade right in there, but you do it with a lot of grace. And just recently we were in a couple meetings where I went home and told Lena, I said, I was just watching you in a difficult conversation, not skirting it, just moving right into it, but doing it with such grace and class. And it was really cool to watch, and to realize, shoot, he's already better than me. Yes, yeah, he does, yeah. So he's got a little bit of me and a lot of Lena and a lot of Pastor Noel, yeah. That's true. That's well said. Anybody else?
This is for Michael. One of my desires is to get to know more of who you are. And one of the ways that I've gotten to know more about who Joe is through his blogs, because he shares what God is teaching him. So I'm wondering if you are going to be, that's another thing that will be transitioning.
Ooh.
is that you'll be doing some of the blogs, and
That's a great
also will you
question.
be leading some more mission groups?
Yes, I
That's
like
a great
that.
question.
Good.
I don't know, Dad. What do you think about the blog thing?
I think you should do it.
Okay, we'll do it. I'll start sharing some of my blogs with you, and then you can decide if you want to share them with everyone else. If it's like an A to B range, you can share it.
Well, we can create, where's Andy? Andy's here. There's Andy. Andy, we can create we got a Pastor Joe's blog. We can create a Pastor Michael's blog, can't we?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. There you go. Boom. Done.
Good idea.
Thank you, Peg.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah.
And
Andy just said yes.
Thank you.
Look at that.
Thank you for helping me with that. And Peg, you also asked about mission groups, right? So Sarah and I led a rooted group in the spring, and we're really excited for our mission group coming up this fall. So I left that men's mission group to lead the rooted, and now we're continuing with that rooted group that's now going to be a couples mission group. So we're really excited about that. We've invited several new people in, and excited for what it's going to do to build community for those people as they're finding and following Jesus.
Good. Was that what you were asking about, Peg? Was mission groups? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Well, let me finish then, or let us finish. I got to be sure to say us, not me. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on the thing you were talking about, the DBS thing?
Yes.
And the mission groups, and then I'll wrap up with one other idea that we're kicking around?
Absolutely.
Good.
So in Matthew 16:18, Jesus looks at Peter and he says, "You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it." And I love what Jesus says there about his church. First, that he builds his church. Aren't you glad that God builds his church? That he's responsible for it. That, we have a part to play in building the church, but Jesus is the one who builds his church. So I love that. And then he says the gates of hell will not prevail against his church. And I want to be that sort of church. Don't you guys? I want to be the sort of church that the gates of hell cannot stand against, that when we move, the gates of hell fall, that when we move into an area of Spokane, when we move into people's lives, that you and I, that we would be weapons for God's kingdom, that we would advance his kingdom in powerful ways, and that the gates of hell wouldn't prevail. So that's something that I love hearing that Jesus says about his church. And I believe that for this church, he wants to continue to make us that sort of church. We have been that sort of church, and we are that sort of church. Did you know over the last 9 years, 3,365 people have said yes to Jesus here at Life Center? That's over one person a day saying yes to Jesus, because people like you and me have been doing Find, Tell, Bring. We've been bringing our friends to church. We've been telling them our stories. We've been finding them and loving them. And so that's made possible because of what you guys have been doing, because you've been sharing your faith. Also, 2,545 people have been baptized in the last 9 years. So it doesn't just stop at raising a hand. People are getting baptized and getting into community here. So God's been doing incredible things in our church. And I want to continue to see that happen. I want to continue to see this church be a church that is on fire for Jesus, a church that is a bright light in our city, a church that is not just going deep in our faith, but being active in our faith as well. And so that's something that we've been working really hard on. We've been looking at what we do for discipling people. How do we make disciples? Because Jesus said that he said in Matthew 28:18-20, he said, "All authority has been given to me, therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you." And so that's our job, is to help people find and follow Jesus. That's how we condense that Great Commission. Help people find and follow Jesus. But how do we do that better? How do we bring people from finding Jesus to truly following Jesus with their whole lives? How do we help them fulfill not just fulfill the Great Commission, but help them fulfill the Great Commandment of loving God with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength? So what we've noticed is that over 70% of the people who call Life Center their home have not participated in any sort of groups. And again, we believe that Christianity is a team sport, right? that we are better together. And if they're just coming on a Sunday, you know that's helpful, right? But we want to help them even more. We want to help them grow in leaps and bounds, not just in baby steps. And so we really believe that happens in groups, that it happens in Rooted, that it happens in mission groups. And we've had fantastic success with Rooted. Over 2,000 people have graduated from Rooted over the last 4 years. And that's been, it's been a huge part of so many people's stories as they've gone through this discipleship experience. So we wanted to say, how do we then help people do that with mission groups? How do we enhance mission groups to help people really experience the fullness of what Jesus has for them in community and on mission? So we looked at this and said, how do we pull people in? And what we realized is that even still, we changed the name from life groups to mission groups, because when you say, hey, would you come to my life group? It's like, wait, how long is the commitment? Is that for life? Well, I don't think I can commit for life. It feels like a very big commitment. And so we restructured our groups and kind of refocused them. Instead of saying, man, this is a life group, we took away that confusion and said, this is a mission group, because Jesus gave his Great Commission to his small group, didn't he? He gave it to his 12 friends, and that small group effectively became his mission group. The ones who'd been charged with his mission. We believe that every Christian, every group, and every church is to fulfill the Great Commission. We're supposed to be people on mission, groups on mission, churches on mission. So we've taken all of that and say, how do we help people get into groups? How do we help them overcome this barrier of the fear of commitment? And so what we're going to be saying, and what you've probably heard us say already, is that we would hope that every person in our church would be involved in a group, a 10-week group, at least once a year. So we've seen that over 2,000 people have been willing to commit 10 weeks of their life to pursue Jesus through Rooted. And so if we can take that same commitment and say, if you would commit 10 weeks of your life every year, what can God do through your life? What sort of spiritual growth would he do in your life? And so we're going to be communicating that from now on, is that we would hope that every person in our church would be a part of at least one group every year. And then if you're a part of one group, because we all know that our schedules are busy, correct? If you're a part of one group, you succeeded. You can celebrate. You don't have to feel bad about just doing one session. You did something, and we believe that's better than doing nothing. Amen? A lot better than doing nothing. So if we can get people over that hurdle and into a group, we think we're going to see a ton of growth in people's lives. So that's one thing that we did. And then on the back end, we tried to create a robust plan that looked over the key elements of discipleship. And so a long time ago, you and Rick looked through the Bible and said, how are disciples made, and who is a disciple? And you came up with 4 things. And Rick and Joe, what are they? Can you do back and forth, do them? Ready? You start.
God, character, relationships, service. Yep.
So putting it in kind of pronouns.
God, me, we, world.
Yes. So a disciple is someone who has growing relationship with God. And so the first year of our mission group plan, every session, though they'll be different, is each going to be focused on growing your relationship with God. And then the second year is the Christ-like character. Every person who's following Jesus should be developing Christ-like character, and if we're not, we're in trouble, right? We're following the wrong person at that point. So we want to grow Christ-like character, and that is going to be the focus of our second year. So each of those 3 sessions in that second year will be focused on that. And then finally, the third and the fourth are that you're developing Christ-like relationships, and then world, that you are learning to serve the world and people just like Jesus did. And so each of those sessions in those years will be focused on that theme for the year. So we think that it's going to help people. If you're participating one time a year, you're going to hit each of those 4 categories and really be developing yourself as a holistic disciple of Jesus. So that's our hope, is to develop wholehearted, holistic disciples of Jesus.
And if people want to do more than one session, of course, we would
Not allowed. No. Definitely no more discipleship than 10 weeks a year. No, if people want to, that's fantastic. We would love if you got into a group and you said, I can't stop this. This needs to continue going. But if your schedule only allows you to do 10 weeks, we want to celebrate that. We want to help people. That, again, 70% of our congregation is not involved in any sort of groups, any sort of serving. How do we get them plugged into a growing discipleship community? That's what we want to do. And if it takes just getting them in 10 weeks a year, I'm going to do it, because whatever we can do to help those people take a next step with Jesus, we want to do it.
Jill?
Oh, so after 4 years, are we just going to recycle everything?
First year, 3 sessions. They're each different. Same theme, relationship with God, each one, but different content in each session. So if you want to do all 3, you'll get something different at each session.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great thing. We will, you're actually talking about some of this upcoming weekend, correct? So that would be a great opportunity for you to clarify what mission groups are. We want again, Jesus gave the Great Commission to his small group, which effectively became his mission group. And so we want to make that really clear. What is a mission group? And it's just a group of people who are on a mission to help people find and follow Jesus. It's our mission. And so if you remember our mission, you know what a mission group is. It's a group of people who are on a mission to help people find and follow Jesus.
Thank you, Jill. Good. All right.
Your turn.
My turn. Last thing. So you all know we've been doing Find, Tell, Bring forever, right? Find someone you love, tell them what you know, bring them with you. And that's just a real simple process for helping people find Jesus. And part of this, as we've been talking and thinking about how do we get better at this, one of the shifts in our thinking, it's a little shift, but it's a pretty important one, is we want to move from making disciples to making disciples who make disciples. So in a sense, we want to move to making disciple makers, so that we help you not only follow Jesus, but equip you to help other people find and follow Jesus, who then in turn can do that same thing. And we think that to do that, it's got to be pretty simple. And so that's why we're working on really simple things that are reproducible, that someone does it with you and you can turn around and do it with someone else. It's not hard. Does that make sense? I was just talking with a friend today, and we were talking about this, and his mind started racing on all this stuff he could do, and he was coming up with elaborate plans, to do a 12-week teaching series on something, and I kind of had to stop him and say, well, I did that once. I did Rick, do you remember how many weeks it was? Was it 10 weeks or 12 weeks or 16 weeks? It was some crazy thing on personal evangelism, where I taught, this is way back in the early days of the church. I was going to teach our church, turn everyone into a personal evangelist, and there was an inch-thick notebook with 12 sections in it, and I just laid it all out, everything you could imagine. And at the end of all that teaching, I hadn't equipped our church, I'd paralyzed them. Because they looked at that thick notebook and at all that stuff I gave them and said, who can remember all that? No one except for Joe. Yeah, so let him do it. And effectively, like I said, I paralyzed them. If you want everyone to be involved, you got to keep it really, really simple. And so one of the things we're working toward, and one of the ideas I'm going to pitch this weekend, is what if every single one of us who are followers of Jesus, what if every one of us just adopted a really simple goal, and it became a point of prayer for us? And the simple goal was, this year, I'm going to make one disciple. And what that means is that this year, I'm going to identify someone on my love list. I'm praying for all these people, but I'm going to identify someone that I'm going to just go after a little harder, right? I'm going to be taking that person out for coffee. I'm going to be intentional about some spiritual conversations, sharing my story, asking their story, just real simple, basic stuff. But I'm going to be intentional about doing that. I'm going to invite them to my men's group or a couples group. I'm going to invite them to Rooted. I'm going to invite them to church. But in the process, my prayer is going to be that by the time the year's over, that person's going to have come to Christ, come to church, come to Rooted, and is starting to grow as a disciple and can turn around and do that with someone else. And, if each of us had that simple goal and understood how to do it, and that it's, in fact, where it begins? It just begins, like I said, with that simple intentionality. About 4 months ago now, our staff knows this. About 4 months ago, I started putting a little thing on my to-do list every week. It pops up on Sunday for me, and it says, schedule a MAD meeting. And MAD's all in caps, M-A-D. You want to know what MAD stands for? Make a disciple. Schedule a MAD meeting. And so who am I going to have coffee with this week? Who am I going to have lunch with? Who am I going to go sit down and talk with that doesn't know Jesus yet? And I'm either building the foundations by, building the relationship, or I'm actually planning on having that first spiritual conversation where I bring up the subject and we begin to talk about it together. But that's what a MAD meeting is. And I try to have one of those a week with someone. Real simple practice. But it's that kind of stuff. Just a simple goal, a few simple steps to get us there. And can you imagine what would happen if our whole church, can you imagine? If 3,000 or 4,000 of us said, I'm going to prayerfully go after this goal this year of making one disciple. Whew. A few years from now, Spokane would be saved. Whole town. But that's the power of that just simple reproduction. So that's the kind of things we've been thinking about, because we're really intentional about our mission, about helping people find and follow Jesus, and we don't want to just coast. We want to get better at it. Does that make sense? Good. All right, well, Michael, I'm going to let you pray us out. If any of you have questions, you can come grab us. On the bottom there's a web address, email address. If you have questions you'd rather send them there, that's fine. Or if you want to grab us anytime, you can grab us anytime. But pray us out, Michael.
Well, Heavenly Father, we first thank you for being you. You are amazingly good to us. You love us. You are gracious. You're forgiving. And because of that, God, we're here and we're alive and we're living life abundant with you, Jesus. So we're thankful for you and thankful for what you've done in our lives. God, we pray that what you've done for us, you would do for the people we know and love who haven't experienced it. God, we always want to be a church that's on mission because that's what you asked us to do. And so, God, would you help us thrive in that? Would you help us be passionate for that? Would you help the person who comes here once a month to catch fire for that? Would you help the people who are in our groups in recovery? God, would you help each and every single one of us to catch fire for helping other people know you, Jesus? Because you've changed us and you want to save every person, God. That is your heart, and we believe that. We want to partner with you in that. God, we pray that you would equip us to love people the way you do. And then, God, we ask that this would continue to be a great transition for our church. That it wouldn't distract us from what you've called us to do or distract us from you, Jesus, because we are here to honor and worship you, Jesus. That's what we're going to get to do for eternity, and we want to start it now really well. So we love you, Jesus, and we pray that you'd give us all a safe drive home and a wonderful evening together. We pray this in Jesus' name. And everyone said,
Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, everybody.